Joining us right now is Scott Sperling. He is THL Partners co-CEO. And Scott is somebody who's been in these markets for a very long time, who's seen
for a young guy.
For a young guy.
Yes.
No, but you're somebody who has a lot of expertise in this. How do you judge what's happening right now, and how do you plan for the longer term?
Well, the first thing is I think we ought to calm down a little bit relative to the fact that every day there's a new announcement, things are swinging in many different directions. There's a lot of guessing as to what will happen, both near term and short term. The president, I would say, one of the unusual things for me is looking at how he is willing to take short-term pain in order for what he believes to be a longer-term benefit. It's not a president who has normally been seen as doing those sorts of things. And so I think we need to see the entirety of the plan that they're going to lay out and how it's going to affect. Right now, the uncertainties are driving the market volatility in significant ways. And also, you know, one can imagine that if you're a business and you don't know what your cost structure is going to look like, you're not going to step forward in terms of investment. And if you're a consumer and you're hearing all of this and you're saying, well, prices are going to get higher, you may see the retail numbers spike a little bit because people are rushing out to buy things, and then the expectation is going to be down. So it is certainly the case that I would suspect that bookings are down across almost every industry in this country. That's never a comfortable thing for business. It's never a comfortable thing to hear about if you're investing in the stock market or in private markets. But we need to see the totality of what's going to be announced to understand.
Mixed pictures that maybe bookings are down, consumer confidence is certainly down,
yes.
Business confidence is down. But we do hear from a lot of places that spending is still going strong. The consumer is still spending.
And I think some of that may be a pull forward, if you will, because of the fear of what you read every day, which is prices are going to go up. And they're going to go up across the board for consumer goods as well as for input. We're also seeing the reality of maybe the political and national security necessity of high tariffs on steel and aluminum. I think that's a question. But that certainly has a major impact across so many different areas for both business and the consumer as we go forward.
Do you imagine, though, that this is permanent? This is a permanent state of affairs, or do you imagine that we get some kind of retaliatory things that start to take place over the next several weeks, if not months, and that there's then this back and forth, and that uncertainty unto itself creates this sort of other moment where CEOs still can't decide what they're supposed to do?
Yes and yes, and if only I were that smart. I don't know what the nature, again, of the long-term structure is going to be. There are many different goals that have been articulated. One is this is a revenue stream that is going to allow a reduction in the government taking money away from individuals and corporations. So theoretically, there could be a higher multiplier on the fact that we're taking probably less than 1 times multiplier government spending and we're putting it back in the hands of the private sector. So that's one thing that might be happening, and that may be permanent, or the objective may be a permanent level of tariffs to substitute for our traditional tax revenue
Except
stream.
that I will say, Scott Besson, it wasn't just that he was referring to the CBO. I don't believe. I think he was saying that it shouldn't be calculated at all in terms of how the U.S. government thinks about its budget and taxes. And so if you're not considering that math at all, forget about the CBO, which won't consider that math. But if he's saying you're not supposed to consider that in the context of what's happening, I'm not really sure what this does to what you're talking about.
Well, that's why the uncertainties are so great and why I just don't know the answer to your question, because you have the president saying, gee, I like this as a form of permanent revenue.
Exactly.
And you have others who are out there pounding the table saying this will be great, $600 billion a year of new revenue. Now, that means permanent tariffs at some level. Maybe it's not 20%, but at some level. Then there is the retaliatory tariffs and the back and forths. That's all going to happen, I suspect. So, unfortunately, the answer is we don't know yet, and we won't know for a while exactly how that's going to play out. I think what we do need to believe longer term is that whatever happens as either a one-time hike in the cost structure of everything, let's say it's a 10% tariff permanently, that we're going to make that up with productivity. And we're going to use agentic AI and many other things that are going to reduce the cost structures in other ways. Hence the opportunities that you see and the fact that you're seeing these huge valuations on companies that are going to theoretically be able to contribute to that.
So you have no idea what's going on, but you're not that scared. I like it. I like that you're...
Joe, this goes back to being old, right?
I guess. Go ahead.
But I will tell you, I don't feel as badly about this.
And by the way, Scott, I've been talking to you here for 20 years.
Yeah.
So this is, I think you bring something to the table that is different. Where do you see the opportunities that you're mentioning? I do see them. I think that we're in a world where, whether it's life science and the ability to support life science development, even with all the challenges with NIH funding right now, which, by the way, I think are problematic. You do?
Yes. And particularly what they're talking about with the NIH indirects, which I think is a definitional problem, not a real
Describe
problem.
that, the NIH indirects.
So, they're proposing cutting NIH indirects to 15% of the base. The problem with the NIH is that they define things like the lab space, the equipment, and all the support for that as indirect. Other people don't necessarily do that. So I think there's a nomenclature problem that hopefully will get solved.
That's
Otherwise, it's going to cripple a lot of basic research.